Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be using the Gnome-tastic birthday surprise stamp set along with some digi papers all from Polkadoodles, and I'm going to create this flip card, which super fun and easy to do. Now, the main thing that I was experimenting with on this card is doing my own spot foiling with the pattern paper. So here is how the pattern paper looks originally. It's a close-up of the paper pattern, and what I did when I pulled it in, or as I was looking through the pattern papers, I was trying to find a pattern paper where there was an element that looked like it would be really fun to add foiling to. And basically how I achieved it was to print out, separate what I want foiled from what I want just regularly printed in color, so that I have two different files, as you can see here. On the left is the color file, which I took a piece of paper, ran it through my color inkjet printer to print that as a first pass. I took that same printed paper and then I ran it through my laser printer using the file on the right, which only prints out the leaves. Now I did have to go into Photoshop, pick out all of those leaf elements, make sure they were jet black so that I get maximum toner. And by passing the paper through twice and once through a laser printer on pure black and white, that means that everything that was printed with your laser printer can be foiled with the with transfer foil and something like a laminator, which is what I used, or the Mink machine. Super, super fun technique. And that is one of the many advantages of using digital papers, because you could definitely do a lot of creative things just by manipulating the digital file before you print. And that includes even, color shifting and changing the colorway of the pattern itself. So there's just so many things you can do, and it's amazing that this is something that's available to us. So I'm using a iCrafter circle flip card die set to create the base of my card. My printers, I think maybe my laser printer can handle heavier cardstock, but my inkjet printer cannot. So I did have to end up printing this on 65-pound paper. So for a card base, that's way thinner than I generally prefer. So what I've done is actually cut a separate panel that's 100-pound weight cardstock, and this die set will actually create a US A2 size card. So I just had to cut my panel to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere that to the back of the panel, my pattern paper panel that was die cut. I'm using some Kalal all-purpose glue, because that's a solvent-based glue which will not absorb into your paper and cause any wrinkling. So if you're working with papers that are a little bit on the thinner side, that's a very safe glue to use because it won't warp your paper. I wouldn't class 65-pound paper as thin, but my paper was already a little bit warped, having gone through 2 different printers, gone through a laminator, and die cutting and all of that. So I just wanted to really make sure that this dried rock hard and super smooth. And it did, using the combination of double-sided dry adhesive tape and Kalal all-purpose. Now, to cut the front of your card, it's recommended that you place this die, which cuts out that circle shape and puts the score line in to fold it in half. It's recommended that you place this into your card base die and cut it out together. However, you're going to end up having to trim off a portion of that. So instead what I did was I just cut my pattern paper to 4 1/4 inches wide. I centered my die, as you can see here, and then I die cut once from the front and once from the back, just so that I can see what options that gives me, because I'm using home printed pattern paper, which is only printed on one side. Now, of course, you could pass your paper once you've printed it the one time and actually get double-sided paper by just printing a different pattern on the back. However, I printed on photo paper because that just tends to get me the best results when I'm printing borderless, full color images or photos. And so I find that my photo paper definitely gets me the best color interpretation, at least to my liking. So what I've decided is to use the version where I've actually die cut from the back of the pattern paper, and then I folded it just as you can see here and burnished that fold line, and it'll get attached to the back of our card via the little glue tab that's on the back. Now the look that gives me is having the pattern paper visible on the inside as well as on the front. But that does leave me just this plain white circle. So what I did was I just took a separate piece of cardstock that I lined with double-sided adhesive edge to edge, and using the leftover foil from when I created my spot foiled pattern paper, I just foiled that panel of cardstock, and then I ran it through the same die that cuts the front of your card. Now that only cuts half of your circle, but then if you just rotate your cardstock around, you can die cut the other half of the circle so that you get a perfect match that will fit in exactly here. And all of that little die cut detailing around the border matches up perfectly as well. So that's a great way to use any extra foiling that you may have, because you might think that, I've used such a large sheet of foil paper just to foil those little itty bitty leaves. What a waste. But it's not, because you can still use that transfer foil on techniques like this, where you just cover a panel of cardstock and then you can die cut from it and you have some nice foiled paper to use. So had I known and planned ahead a little bit, I actually would have glued this glue tab in between the two layers of my pattern paper where I'm burnishing here. But I didn't think about it in advance, or I actually really just didn't decide in advance that I was going to glue down that flap entirely. If you watch other tutorials on how to use this die set, they don't generally recommend that you glue down that flap. The reason why I did was because, as I mentioned, I printed it on photo paper, which is not a super thick paper. And I do like for my card bases to be rather sturdy and thick. So I decided, kind of midway through making this card, that I wanted to just go ahead and glue that down so that I get a nice thickness to that card front. Now, to color in my gnome, I'm using my Ohuhu alcohol markers, and he's such a joy to color in. And one of the nice things about using Digis stamps is you can actually scale your images to fit whatever design you want on your card. So having thought about it a little bit in advance, I knew I wanted to use this particular die set to create my card base. And so I just measured what that circle would be. And then I scaled my gnome to fit, essentially. And so I don't have to worry about, is he the right scale for this project or not? I can make him the right scale. And so that is the beauty of using digital stamps, is that unlike, a clear stamp or a rubber stamp that only has that one specific size, you can scale your Digi stamps to whatever size you need. There are some limitations just because of the resolution of the image, but for the most part in card making, you're going to find you'll be able to scale it to a reasonable size without too much limitation. And the beauty of this, and I think a lot, if not most, of the Digi-stamps in the Polkadoodles shop is that it does come with a cut file as well. So I used my Cricut to do the print and cut. So here's where I decided to glue down this flap. And see, I would have glued the glue tab from the back of the card right in between there and then close that off so that I would have had a really nice finish. But as I was saying, I used my Cricut print and cut feature to cut out this gnome, so I didn't even have to do any fussy cutting at all. So then I pulled out a happy birthday sentiment die that I have from my stash and attached it to just this little bit of scrap white card that I rounded the corners of, and I chose the size of this based on what can hide behind the front of the card, because I don't want to lose the design of, you know, having that cool front panel in front of our custom spot foiled pattern paper on the inside or the back of our card. So I still want to give myself a place to write a little personal message and to sign the card, but I want it hidden from view, especially since this is a card that is going to look beautifully displayed on a desk or at home. And so especially if they're displaying it like at their office or something, then, you know, they don't have to worry about having their personal message on display. And with the little banner flag that the gnome is holding, I've left it blank, but my intention is to actually write in the card recipient's name as a cool way of personalizing this card. And so that's why it's blank right now. I just didn't want to put their name on it for all to see, just in case they're watching this video. So there's a look at my final card. I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you did, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing this video. And if you want to catch new videos as I post them, click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Thanks again, and until my next video, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye!